picture this. You take one still image, draw a couple of arrows on top of it, click a button, and it turns into a smooth HDR video where every character, every ship, every tiny detail moves exactly the way you sketched it, with no complicated prompts, no camera crew, and colours that already look like you hired a professional colorist. If that sounds interesting, you're going to love this one. Hey friends, welcome back to Learn AI Quickly. If you're into powerful AI tools that save you time and help you make more money online, go ahead and hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and stay with me till the end of this video, because if you skip even one tiny setting inside Ray 3, you might miss the feature that actually makes your videos look next level. Today we're diving into Ray 3 inside Luma Labs' Dream Machine, their newest model with native HDR, better physics, and a reasoning upgrade that makes it follow your prompts much more accurately. And at the very end I'll show you a visual annotation trick where you literally draw motion on your frame and watch the whole scene come to life. So, quick overview before we jump on the screen. Luma just rolled out Ray 3 inside Dream Machine, and they're pushing a few big ideas here. First, native HDR for AI video, so your highlights are brighter, your shadows are deeper, and you have a lot more room for color grading later. Second, better fidelity and physics, meaning less glitchy morphing and more believable motion. Third, improved prompt adherence and reasoning, so the model actually understands what you're asking for in complex scenes instead of just guessing. And on top of that, they've added visual annotations where you can draw directly on the image instead of typing long prompts, and the model interprets your doodles. In this video, we're going to compare Ray 2 versus Ray 3 on real prompts like fight scenes, trains, dinosaurs, and cars. Show you how Ray 3 reasoning works on complex scenes with multiple details, explain SDR versus HDR in simple language, and show you how to convert your normal clips to HDR inside Luma. And finally use visual annotations to control movement by literally drawing arrows. There's also a link in the description, so you can try Ray 3 yourself after watching this tutorial. Now let's jump onto the screen. First, we open the Luma Labs or Dream Machine dashboard and create a new workspace. You click on New Board, or whatever your Create button is called, and down at the bottom right, you'll see a selector for the model. When you open the model drop-down, you'll see Ray 2, Ray 3, and Ray 3 Reasoning. Ray 2 is the older model, Ray 3 is the new one focused on quality and high motion scenes, and Ray 3. Reasoning is built for complex tasks where a lot of things are happening at once, and you need the model to really think through the scene. Anytime you've got a busy scene, multiple objects, or specific interactions, think of Ray 3 Reasoning as your smart mode that tries to understand what's actually going on. Now let's talk about HDR, because a lot of people miss this. When you switch to Ray 3, you can choose your resolution, and at 720p you unlock HDR and HDR plus XR. That HDR plus XR version gives you a different file format that's easier to bring into professional color grading tools later, like DaVinci Resolve or Premiere, with proper HDR workflows. Right now, HDR and HDR plus XR are only available at 720p. Not 1080p, so if you're not seeing the HDR toggle, the first thing to check is your resolution. Also, any text to video and image to video you generate with Ray 3 is natively HDR once you turn those options on, and you can even upscale existing media in the editor to give it that HDR look, which we'll do later in the video. Let's start with a juicy example, a fight scene. My text prompt is something like, a guy gets slammed into a wall, another guy follows, grabs him by the collar and yeets him upward. You know, a classic action shot. With Ray 2, the motion is kind of there, but the guy never actually hits the wall the way I described. The follow-up motion doesn't really match the idea of grabbing him by the collar and throwing him upward, and there's some weird morphing where limbs blend and shapes warp. So even though the video moves, it doesn't follow the prompt very well, and this is where a lot of people get frustrated. You write a super clear prompt, and the AI just ignores the important part. That's basically what Ray 2 is doing here. With Ray 3, the guy actually gets slammed into the wall, the other character follows up like, I'm not done with you yet, grabs him, and throws him upward, and the action feels much more intentional. When I go to download this video, I can now download it in HDR, something that simply wasn't possible before with this workflow. So right away we're seeing better prompt adherence, more believable physics, and HDR output on top. Next prompt, a man lying on a train track at night, a train is approaching. It's a dramatic cinematic moment. With Ray 2, the model gives us a guy who looks surprised that a train is passing by, but he's not on the track, and the composition doesn't match what we asked for. Honestly, I wouldn't use this in a serious project. It just doesn't sell the story. With Ray 3, the character is lying on the ground, waking up in a panic. He looks ahead, but the train is actually coming from behind him, which adds a nice suspenseful twist. And the train starts out of focus, then gradually comes into focus, so the depth of field feels more cinematic. This is where the improved fidelity, physics and reasoning combo kicks in. Ray 3 isn't just drawing something, it's building a more believable scene. Now let's move to image to video. First example, a guy sprinting away from something. I use this as my first frame and then add a prompt like a close tracking camera. The man is sprinting away from a huge T-Rex. With Ray 2, the T-Rex appears, but the man isn't really running away from it. It feels more like, oh look, a T-Rex over there, instead of a true chase scene. With Ray 3, the man is really sprinting at full speed, maybe even too fast, and the T-Rex appears as he's running out of the frame, which makes it feel like a real chase. Again, Ray 3 is much better at understanding the relationship between the character and the T-Rex in the prompt. Next, we have a beautiful image of a Toyota driving through the jungle, and my prompt is a truck driving through the Mexican jungle as it runs through puddles of water. With Ray 2, we do get the truck driving through puddles, but the motion is very slow motion and a bit odd, with too much wheel spin and things that don't feel fully grounded. With Ray 3, the motion is smoother, the speed of the truck feels more natural, and you can see the windshield reflections changing as it moves past the trees. These small details make a shot feel like real footage instead of a glitchy AI guess. Now let's talk about the Ray 3 reasoning model. This is where the model starts to behave a bit more like it has a chain of thought about your scene. For example, I've got an image of a surgeon doing an operation, and in my prompt I say, a nurse passes both a scalpel and a pair of scissors. Now we have two specific objects we care about, a scalpel and a pair of scissors. If I use the normal Ray 3 model and it forgets the scissors, I'd usually have to regenerate, tweak my prompt and try again. But with Ray 3 reasoning, you choose your image, type the prompt with both details, switch the model to Ray 3 reasoning and hit generate. What Ray 3 reasoning does is first create a draft version and then check its own work, asking, did I include the scalpel? Did I include the scissors? Does this match the prompt? If it decides the answer is not really, it generates another draft. And once it's happy with the result, it upscales that draft to HDR for you. Now, for my favorite part, visual annotations. This feature feels like cheating because you don't even have to write a prompt if you don't want to. Imagine an image of two ships battling on water in a Roman Colosseum-style arena, a kind of gladiator battle at sea. To animate it with annotations, you switch your model to Ray 3, load the image and click the Annotate button. Then you can draw directly on the frame. Grab the arrow tool, draw an arrow from one ship pointing forward, another arrow on the other ship pointing in the opposite direction, and a few arrows on the soldiers to show them moving inward. You can doodle other shapes too, but arrows make the motion very clear. When you're done, you click Done, optionally add a short prompt like the boats face each other in a battle, and hit generate. The result is that the boats move in the directions you drew, the soldiers shift into the battle, and the motion is much more controlled because you literally told the model where to move things. There are other annotation examples too, like a fish that swims to the left exactly where they drew the arrow, or a cow being lifted into a UFO beam where they draw the beam and the upward motion, and the cow floats up accordingly. So if you've ever thought, I wish I could just draw what I want instead of writing a paragraph of prompt, this is exactly that. To recap, Ray 3 brings better quality, motion and prompt following, compared to Ray 2, native HDR and HDR plus XR at 720p give you much more flexibility in color grading and final output. Ray 3. Reasoning is your best friend for complex scenes with multiple details and interactions. Before you go, drop a like. If this breakdown helped you, subscribe to Learn AI quickly. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next video.